Hello. So we continue our Azure Storage Account series, and today we are going to be doing something very, very interesting. But before we start, let me just give an overview of what we've done so far in this series. So we started with learning how to create a container into a storage account from Visual Studio. So from Visual Studio, we are able to create a container to an existing storage account. Then later on, we also looked at how to add a blob, to a storage account container from Visual Studio. Then we also saw how we can access blobs, that's like their names, their properties, in a container from Visual Studio. Then we saw how to download a blob in a storage account from Visual Studio. So from Visual Studio, we want to download a blob, probably an image or a text file. We saw how we could download it. Then we also saw how we could use shared access signatures, how we can get a secure URL to access a blob from Visual Studio. But in this tutorial, in this short demo lab session, we are going to be looking at how we can modify a blob via memory streams from Visual Studio. So let me share my screen to explain what we really want to do before we open Visual Studio. Okay, so this is our container. The container we've been using throughout this series, frankly, are your data. And we have two blobs in there. So let's have a look at this blob. So we have this blob XML starlet that contains some data, some information around how to use XML starlet. What we really want to do is we want to be able to modify this file from Visual Studio. So you can see the content of this file. Now I want to add some more content to it. We want to modify it from Visual Studio. So that's essentially what we intend to do. So now let me stop sharing and I will be going to my Visual Studio now. Yeah, so this is our Visual Studio. So the first line over here, you can see that we installed packages that we'll be using, and the only package we are using here is azure.storage.blobs, and we are referencing our namespace as well. So this is the static variables that, it's common in most of our previous labs, the container name, which is from Azure. Then the connection string, I already showed you how to get this connection string, as well as the blob name. So this is the blob of interest that I just showed you right now. So the first class we use, as I always say, we have a three-layered approach: storage account, container, before you can access the blob. So the blob service client is what we are using here, and we are entering the connection string into the constructor method. So we're entering this connection string. Then from what we have here, we are now going into the next layer, the second level, which is blob container client. And this time around, we are using the object from the service client, and we're using it to access this method, get blob container client. And we are entering the container name as a variable into it, as a parameter into it. Then we now proceed further and use our blob client. And this time around, we're interested in this method, get blob client. I already showed us how this work. And we are passing in the blob name. So this is where things get interesting. So what we really want to do, note that I said we want to modify the blob, which is on Microsoft Azure, which is in a storage account. We want to modify it. However, we are not downloading it from Azure as we've done in previous videos. We are not like downloading the file, then modifying it before we are now uploading it back to Azure. That's not what we are doing. We're actually working with the memory stream. So we are essentially making use of our RAM here rather than our hard drive. So we are using some kind of temporary storage, memory storage, making the modification to the memory storage, and we are now uploading it to Microsoft Azure. So it's important we have a clear understanding on the distinction about what we are doing and what we were working with previously. So we are declaring memory stream here, memory stream, and we are initializing our constructor. And we are now using our Blob client, which we already declared earlier on, and we are using this our download tool. But now, rather than it being, so assuming we were downloading it to our local computer, what we are going to have here will be the path we want to download to. So probably in my C drive, somewhere in my C drive. But because we are not storing it in my hard disk as it were, but a temporary storage. So we are making use of memory, the memory object that was previously declared. So let's have an understanding on that. I'm emphasizing on this because it's critical to what we are really doing. Then we are this next line is just saying that the file that is being downloaded to memory, we want to start to read it from the beginning. So from the top 0, because it's like an array, and 0 signifies the initial position. So from the top. Then we are using, it's actually the stream reader class that we are using to read through the file that we are storing into memory. So that is going to read it through. So this is the class that is reading each line down to the very end, and we are writing it on our screen. So we are writing it on our console log. So we are also console logging it in the output screen. So down to the very end, we are writing the line, each line of it down to the very end. Then after this, after reading through it and also writing it to our console log, our main aim is that we want to make a change to the file. We want to make a change to that data that is being stored in the memory. And to do that, we are using our stream writer because we really want to write. We use the stream reader to read what was stored in memory. Then now we are using the stream writer because we want to write to it. So we are using the stream writer class, declaring an object underscore writer, and we are passing through that data that is in memory. And this is the simple line that we want to write to that file. This is the update. This is the modification. So this line was added newly to the file. And we are using this flush method to just ensure that what we have written is reflected into that file. Then after that, then we are now going back to the top position again, because now we want to upload to Azure. So what we've just done here is to make the change to what we have in memory. We haven't reflected it in our Azure environment. So by using this Blob client again and using the upload method, we are now uploading the modified version of what we have in memory to Microsoft Azure. Then we can just give a console log that says that change has been made to the file in Azure, and we end it over here. Read key, so we press enter to continue. So that's essentially what this program is about. So I'll be running it now, and let's see what we have. Hopefully we don't have any error. So I will stop sharing and I will share my output screen. I'll share my output screen now. Let me share my output screen. You can ask me any question in the comment section. This can sound a little confusing if you are not familiar with how C#, how ASP works with memory when you are manipulating, writing to memory and things around that. But believe me, it's quite straightforward. The classes and the methods are very easy to memorize. They are very easy to understand. They are very I mean, it's very straightforward. Their names, the terminology, the semantics are they clearly reflect what you actually want to do. So it's way easier than a lot of other languages, how they work with memory. Yeah, so you can see the file here. You can see the file and you can see underneath change has been made to the file in Azure. You can see that this change is not reflected here because the initial stream reader that we used was before we used the stream writer. So we use the stream reader to read to the console. That's why we are here to see the reflection of that over here. So I would change has been made to Azure. So I will press any key to close this. Then I would stop sharing and we will now go to Microsoft Azure and we would see if what we have is reflected over there. So I'll reshare now. Yeah, recall earlier on we opened it and the change we made wasn't there. So now let's see if we'll see a reflection of that. So if I should go to edit, yeah, you can now see this line. This line was added newly to the file. This line wasn't there when we opened it at the beginning of this lab. So what we've done now is we've been able to modify a blob that is in an Azure Storage account, and we did this remotely. We did not do it by coming to Azure portal. We did it from a separate application. So I believe this lab, you will find it useful. Feel free to ask any question at all around what we have done, and I'll be glad to respond to it.